Caritamrta. Today is Thursday, the 3rd of July, 2025. So we're carrying on chapter 7, which is a very dense chapter, but very ecstatic. So we'll begin. Agyan timrandasya gyananjala shalakaya chakshu unmilitam jena tasmai shri guruve namaha. Guruve Gauda Chandraya Radhikaya Adi-lila Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tada Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Shri Caitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Jina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Priya Sarupe, Dayata Sarupe, Prema Sarupe, Sahajabi Rupe, Nijana Rupe, Prabhuveka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swabila Sarupe. Anapita Chirim Chirat Karunavartino Kalo Samarapaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam Haripurata Sundarata Tikatam Basatipita Sada Kadare Kandare Spuratu Vasachinandanaha Yam Prabhajantamana Petyam Apetya Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putre Titam Matayo Tarabo Benidustam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanatoshmi Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadi Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapana Prinde Namaste Charanarabindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Bharadram Tato Mamanasti Katyana Kapi Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Naimam Charanam Tikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Gurudev, Adi-lila Pravishta Om Astol Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Adi-lila Pravishta Om Astol Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And again, I'm offering my Sastang Dandavat pranams to our dearmost Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami and all the Rupa Nuga Guru Varg and all the Vaishnav and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord. My Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhavibhacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So yes, we've reached the 7th chapter, which is describing Mahaprabhu in 5 features. So this whole Panchatattva represent the body, the complete body of truth is represented in the Panchatattva itself. And this chapter is analyzing that and unpacking that, showing that connectedness, that completeness of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu would never come without his brother Nityananda or Balaram. He wouldn't come without Radha. He wouldn't come without Yogamaya or Advaita Acharya, Sadashiva. He wouldn't come without his pure devotees. Whenever he advents, he always advents with these aspects of his nature to support his mission, particularly this time, because his mission is absolutely unique. Never before has he come in the whole day of Lord Brahma in a covered manifestation where he's not walking in his Godhead. He's not proclaiming himself. He's come for a very specific reason. It's really, really unique. So we need to understand this deeply, significantly. So we've reached text 15. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Etina Tattva Sarovar Radhya Karimani Chaturta Siye Bhakta Bhatatva Aradhaka Jani. Huh? No. We're up to text. Oh yes, you're right. Sorry. Okay, back on to text 12. Yes, thank you. We were just coming into Nityananda. Yes, correct. Text 12. Ite Bhakta Bhavedari Chaitanya Goshani Bhakta Swarup Tandra Nityananda Bhai. For this reason, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Teacher, accepts the form of a devotee and accepts Lord Nityananda as his elder brother. Because we've just described that Mahaprabhu comes with all his complete entourage. That was the final verse that we spoke, text 11, on Tuesday. Text 13. Bhakta Avatara Tanra Acharya Goshani Etina Tattva Shava Prabhu Kori Gai. Sri Advaita Acharya is Lord Chaitanya's incarnation as a devotee. Therefore, these three tattvas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Advaita Goswami, are the predominators or master, Vishnu Tattva. Goswami means Goswami, a person who has full control over the senses and mind is called a Goswami or Goswami. Vacho Vegam, Manasakroda Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Uttara Pastra Vegam is saying in the beginning of Upadeshamrita, this verse, describing what is a Goswami. One who does not have such control is called a Godas, a servant of the senses, and cannot become a spiritual master. A spiritual master who actually has control over the mind and senses is called Goswami. Although the Goswami title has become a hereditary designation for unscrupulous men, actually the title Goswami or Goswami began from Srila Rupa Goswami, who presented himself as an ordinary grihasta and minister in government service, but became a Goswami when he was actually elevated by the instruction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prior to his meeting with Lord Chaitanya, Rupa Goswami was working in the government service of the Nawab of Bengal and had a very powerful position as the financial minister, along with Sanatana Goswami, who was like the prime minister. This is a very big position. Even though they would have Vaishnava meetings regularly, have Sankirtan, etc., but nevertheless he was employed in this capacity. So this was his history previously. Of course, he's an eternal parikar, he's a maidservant of Srimati Radhika. Still, for pastime's sake, Yogamaya will cover the identity of those individuals so that they don't realize who they actually are until it's ignited at the correct time. Any pure devotees or parikars, it's not that from their birth they're realizing their identity. Yogamaya will cover them, and it'll be manifested at the particular time when it's necessary to be manifested. Otherwise, they'll stay in a covered condition. Otherwise, it would just become confusing for that person, having to interact with material society, and confusing for others also. So Yogamaya, she performs that service. Even Mahaprabhu goes through that same apparent forgetfulness of his real identity. Even though when he's born, he's making everyone chant Hare Krishna, but still he becomes Nimai Pandit, the arrogant scholar. So Yogamaya sometimes will also cover his identity, just like in Braj-lila. Krishna's identity is covered so that he can become the child completely. He wants to taste the sweetness of his devotees, so he becomes like his devotees. So he also allows himself to be covered by that potency, just like binding him. Mother Yashoda could never have bound Krishna if he thought he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead for a moment. Therefore, Goswami is not a hereditary title, but refers to one's qualifications. When one is highly elevated in spiritual advancement, regardless of where from he comes, he may be called a Goswami. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and Sri Advaita Goswami Prabhu are natural Goswamis because they belong to the Vishnu Tattva category. As such, all of them are Prabhus, predominators or masters, and they are sometimes called Chaitanya Goswami, Nityananda Goswami, and Advaita Goswami. Unfortunately, their so-called descendants, who do not have the qualifications of Goswamis, have adopted this title as a hereditary designation or a professional degree. That is not in accord with the Shastric injunctions. So this we see today. They're called Smarta Brahmins, and they'll very quickly show their thread and demand money. This is almost immediately an indication of their lack of control. So this is prevalent, and we understand, obviously, because it's the age of Kali. So all these things have become perverted and disrupted. Text 14. Eka Mahaprabhu Durijana Due Prabhu Seva Mahaprabhura Charana. Translation. One of them is Mahaprabhu, and the other two are Prabhus. These two Prabhus serve the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. So we're making very clear distinction between Vishnu Tattva, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya. They are Prabhus serving Mahaprabhu. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Advaita Prabhu all belong to the same Vishnu category, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is nevertheless accepted as the supreme, and the other two Prabhus engage in his transcendental loving service to teach ordinary living entities that every one of us is subordinate to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In another place in the Caitanya Caritamrta Adi-lila 7.12, it is said, Ekale Ishware Krishna, Arashava Britya. The only supreme master is Krishna, and all others, both Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva, engage in service of the Lord. Both the Vishnu Tattva, as Nityananda and Advaita Prabhu, and the Jiva Tattva, Srivasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda, engage in the service of the Lord. But one must distinguish between the Vishnu Tattva servitors and the Jiva Tattva servitors. The Jiva Tattva servitor, the spiritual master, is actually the servitor of God. As explained in previous verses, in the absolute world there is no such differences, yet one must observe these differences in order to distinguish the Supreme from his subordinates. Unless we highlight the Supreme, how can we generate our devotional service to the Supreme? So this is saying repeatedly, again and again, just to make it very clear, the order of the Panchatattva. Even though they're all, we started off by saying that there's no difference between them, like Achintya Veda, Abheda Tattva. But there's speciality, and there is a there are three predominators, but there is one supreme predominator. So Prabhupada is making very clear. Text 15. Edina Tattva Sarva Radya Karimani Chaturtatye Bhakta Tattva Arada Kajani. Translation. The three predominators, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Advaita Prabhu, are worshipable by all living entities. And the fourth principle, Sri Gadadhar Prabhu, is to be understood as their worshipper. Gadadhar, Radha. Radha comes from the word Aradhanam, which means to worship. She worships the Lord in the most highest way. She's the highest worshipper of the Lord. So he demonstrates this in his Leela as Gadadhar Prabhu, and we'll discuss this when we come to that. So purport. In his Anubhasya, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, describing the truth about the Panchatattva, explains that we should understand that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the supreme predominator, and that Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Prabhu are his subordinates, but they are also predominators. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord, and Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Prabhu are manifestations of the Supreme Lord. So we're saying it repeatedly again and again. All of them are Vishnu Tattva, the Supreme, and are therefore worshipable by the living entities. So all the living entities worship the Vishnu Tattva completely, fully, but within the Vishnu Tattva, there is distinction. Although the other two Tattvas within the category of Panchatattva, namely Shakti Tattva and Jiva Tattva, represented by Gadadhar and Srivas, are worshippers of the Supreme Lord. They are in the same category because they eternally engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Although Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Acharya also eternally engage in service of the Lord. This is the bliss of the path we are on, opening up and describing, delineating the nature of devotional service. Bhaktyamam abhijananti yavan yaschasmi tattvataha. This verse describing that one can attain me only through devotional service. So this is our desire to understand this clearly. So these delineations are demonstrating the subject and object, the worshippers and the Supreme. Text 16. Shrivasadi yata koti koti bhakta gana Shuddha bhakta tattva madhye tana shabar gana gana ganana. Translation. There are innumerable pure devotees of the Lord, headed by Srivas Thakur, who are known as unalloyed devotees. Text 17. Gadadhara panditadi prabhu shakti avatara antaranga bhakta kari ganana yanhara. Translation. The devotees headed by Gadadhar Pandit are to be considered incarnations of the internal potency of the Lord, Swarup Shakti. They are confidential devotees engaged in the service of the Lord, and they are all in male forms. We've said many times that there is only dasya mood in Gaura Lila. There is no conjugal engagement in Gaura Lila. They have their conjugal meditation on Braj, but amongst the Panchatattva there is no conjugal exchanges. That would be called Gaura Nagari. That is completely opposed to Tattva and Siddhanta. They are not manifesting their male or female forms separately. We have to be very clear about that. In connection with verses 16 and 17, purport, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains in his Anubhasya, there are specific symptoms by which the internal devotees and the unalloyed or pure devotees are to be known. All unalloyed devotees are Shakti Tattva, or potencies of the Lord. Some of them are situated in conjugal love, and others in filial affection, fraternity, and servitude. Yes, their nature is conjugal, but they're not acting that out in the external pastimes of Mahaprabhu. The devotees who are in a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in conjugal love are considered to be the most confidential devotees of the Lord, of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Those who engage in the service of Lord Nityananda Prabhu and Lord Advaita Prabhu generally have relationships of parental love. Yes, Lord Nityananda and Advaita Prabhu, they're in a different bhav, we can say, to the bhav of Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit, but they're all in dasya. They're all only demonstrating dasya. And Gadadhar, who is Radha, would normally display as Radha a Bhaumya bhav, which is a contrary mood. But in that pastime, that incarnation of Gadadhar, never ever does that manifest. Always very submissive, completely submissive, Dakshin bhav, always. Those who engage in the service of Lord Nityananda Prabhu and Lord Advaita Prabhu generally have relationships of parental love, fraternity, servitude, and neutrality. So even today we see that those who have just accepted Lord Nityananda as their life and soul, even we can say, like Vrindavan Das Thakur, he was the last disciple of Nityananda Prabhu. And in his brilliant Chaitanya Bhagavat, he describes those Navadvip pastimes, and he never actually has darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he never actually enters very much into the realms of the internal pastimes in Puri. This is not what he is here to demonstrate. He's a Nityananda Parikar, and he's showing greatly the mood of devotion. This is what his mood is of Vrindavan Das Thakur. So, but Krishnadas Kaviraj is a Manjari. Vrindavan Das Thakur is in Sakyaras, like his guru is in Sakyaras, Nityananda. So, but Krishnadas Kaviraj is in Madhurya Ras, because he is accepted as his gurus, Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami and Swarup Damodar. Swarup Damodar is Lalita, and Rupa and Raghunath are both Manjaris. So Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj has even though he was brought to Vrindavan by Balaram Prabhu, by Nityananda Prabhu, but still his teachings and his link and connection of devotion is through Raghunath and Rupa Goswami. So he is in a mood of this Madhurya Ras. He's Kasturi Manjari. Those who engage in the service of Nityananda and Lord Advaita generally have relationships of parental love, fraternity, servitude, and neutrality. It's not all one in the sense of just all serving the Lord. There are all these fine-tuned aspects of our devotion according to our own particular nature and style. All the devotees who come to Mahaprabhu, they all have their different rasas. They're not all going to be in the same, but Mahaprabhu still is predominantly distributing this Manjari Bhav. This is what he's distributing. So if that flame of desire for Madhurya Ras is ignited by someone who is already in that rasa, then it becomes very simple for that person to connect with that Madhurya Ras mood that Mahaprabhu wants to distribute, particularly Manjari Bhav. This is what he's come to give. Swa Bhakti Shriyam. Swa Bhakti. Swa means own. Bhakti. Krishna's own bhakti, his own devotion is to Radhika. Swa Bhakti Shriyam means the beauty. The beauty of Radhika is within her maidservants, just like the beauty of a creeper is within the leaves and the flowers that come on the creeper. So ultimately, this is what Mahaprabhu has come to give. We see in this verse, Anapita Chirim Chirat. When we look at the explanations by the acharyas, particularly Rupa Goswami himself, he's explaining this point, that Mahaprabhu principally has come to give this, he's come to give this opportunity for this rasa. When such devotees develop great attachment for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they too become situated within the intimate circle of devotees in conjugal love. Prabhupada is saying exactly the same thing. When one becomes attracted to Mahaprabhu deeply, then by that attraction to Mahaprabhu, he will inquire, for example, what is Mahaprabhu's Astakalya Lila? What is he thinking about? Mahaprabhu is meditating on Nishanta Lila first thing in the morning. He's meditating on Purvana Lila in the early morning, and then in Madhyana Lila he's meditating on the Astakalya Lila in Vrindavan. This is what he's doing, and he's performing Sankirtan in the forests, in the places of Navadvip, but his consciousness is in Vrindavan. This gradual development of devotional service is described by Srila Narottam Das Thakur as follows: Gauranga bolite habe pulaka sharira, hari hari bolite nai yane babenira, ara kabenitai chanda karuna karibe, samsara vashana mora kabe tu chabe. Vishaya chariya kabe shuddha habe mana kabe hamahira boshe Shri Vrindavana Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoibe Akuti Kabe Hama Bhuja Bose Yugala Piriti. When will there be eruptions on my body as soon as I chant the name of Lord Chaitanya? And when will there be incessant torrents of tears as soon as I chant the holy names, Hare Krishna? When will Lord Nityananda be merciful towards me and free me from all these desires for material enjoyment? When will my mind be completely freed from all contamination of desires for material pleasure? Only at that time will it be possible for me to understand Vrindavan. Only if I become attached to the instructions given by the 6 Goswamis, headed by Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das, will it be possible for me to understand the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna. Yes, coming through this line. It won't be possible otherwise. If we sentimentally just try and run towards Mahaprabhu, having heard something about Madhurya Ras, but we haven't studied the teachings of Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das, we're not going to understand. We're going to become confused and bewildered. We need to carefully study the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Ujjvala Nilamani, Vidagdha Madhav, Lalit Madhav, all these books, and Stavamala of Raghunath Das and Vilap Kusumanjali. We should study these granthas. They are there. We can also study Jaidev, Gita Govinda, so many, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his Gita Mala, Gita Stava, so many books that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given to us. All these have to be studied carefully to understand the path, the entrance into Braj. By attachment to the devotional service of Lord Chaitanya, one immediately comes to the ecstatic position. Yes, Mahaprabhu is, we've described before, Mahaprabhu doesn't ask for your qualification. He just gives you your container and the qualification within it. He'll make you qualified. I was listening today to Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He's saying it doesn't matter on the transcendental plane where you're coming from, what was the nature of your mother or your father. If your mother or father were very degraded, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have to carry on that degraded mentality. You don't have to carry on that conditioning. When we actually come into the awareness of the supreme pastimes in Vrindavan, all of our attachment to our purva sanskar, our previous sanskars, can be completely forgotten about. We can leave them behind. If we keep dragging them into the forefront of our minds, keep reminding ourselves of where we were or what we did, etc., this is going to become a hindrance. It's not necessary. It has no support for our bhajan. We need to focus on Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He says, forget the past sleeps, and ne'er the future dream at all, but be with times that are with thee, and progress thou shalt call. So the sadhak, he tries to remain in the powerful present. He tries to live his life appreciating entirely the present atmosphere of his consciousness, that his consciousness has developed through his sadhan bhajan. He connects with that point, and he knows that the past has gone. Forget the past that sleeps, it's gone. And don't dream about the future, because we have no idea of what the future may behold. No idea. But we can see the powerful present. And if we engage our senses and time in that place, then we will make progress. Progress thee shall call, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. By attachment to the devotional service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one immediately comes to the ecstatic position. One immediately becomes to the ecstatic position. One doesn't have to be, in English we say hamstrung, like your legs get broken, you get hindered by negative remembrances of your past impressions. There's no need to keep reinforcing those past impressions. They're not going to help us at all. When he develops his love for Nityananda Prabhu, he is freed from all attachment to the material world. Yes, naturally our attachment for the material world will just diminish if we're meditating on the present situation. And at that time he becomes eligible to understand the Lord's pastimes in Vrindavan. In that condition, in Vrindavan, we are meditating on Mahaprabhu to carry us into the Vrindavan Leelas and pastimes. Mahaprabhu is going to carry us. Tannama Rupa Charita Adi Sukirtano Smitya Kramana Rasanamasidya Tishtem Braje Tanuragi Janugami. This third line. Tishtem Braje Tanugami Januragi. That always remembering the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. This is what Mahaprabhu is teaching us. This is what Rupa Goswami is teaching us, who is the embodiment of the instructions of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu only gave the Shikshastikam. Only, but everything is within the Shikshastikam. But Rupa Goswami has unpacked it for us in a very clear, delineated way. And all the Acharyas, all our Guru Varga, the 6 Goswamis in particular, and the 7th Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they've all clearly delineated our path in this area of coming into the pastimes in Vrindavan. In that condition, when one develops his love for the 6 Goswamis, naturally we develop love for them because they are giving us Vrindavan. He can understand the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. And when I understand that even a little bit, then my heart will melt in a desire to serve them and bring them happiness. These are the different stages of the pure devotee's promotion to conjugal love in the service of Radha and Krishna in an intimate relationship with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is where Mahaprabhu is taking us. He's not taking us just to revolve in Gaura Lila pastimes. He's taking us into Gaura Lila to bring us out into the Jamuna. He's taking us through the Ganga to bring us into the Jamuna. Text 18 and 19. Yane Shabalana Prabhu Nityara Vihara Yan Sabalana Prabhu Kirtana Prachara Yan Shabalana Karena Prema Ashvadana Yan Sabalana Dana Kare Prema Dana. Translation. The internal devotees or potencies are all eternal associates in the pastimes of the Lord. Only with them does the Lord advent to propound the Sankirtan movement. Only with them does the Lord taste the mellow of conjugal love, and only with them does he distribute this love of God to the people in general. How wonderful is Mahaprabhu? He's not giving us something fictitious, he's giving us something that he's tasting himself. Premras, Niryase, Korite, he's come to taste prem. Specifically, the first reason, he's come to taste his prem, that he's seeing reflected through Shri Radhika. That Shri Radhika, as the Ashraya, is tasting the highest bliss of prem. He's come to taste that prem. And simultaneously, he will distribute it naturally. So it's not like a teacher who studied his Shastra and then he's just distributing it. Like he's come to taste it. And we see in the life of Mahaprabhu, in the last 18 years he was in Puri. In the last 12 years in particular, he was practically enclosed in the Gambhira constantly, especially the last few years, completely immersed in tasting that prem, demonstrating his sattvika bhavs in various different examples, like when he became like a tortoise, when he fell in the ocean, etc. So he's tasting it. He's not by his tasting it, that's automatically preaching it, isn't it? Because he's experiencing, he's not just sitting on a pulpit saying do this and do this and do this and do this. He's engaging in it himself, fully immersed in it. So for us to fully immerse ourselves in Mahaprabhu, we get caught up in that mood that he is tasting. We see his moods in this Caitanya Caritamrta, especially in the Adi-lila, the Adi-lila chapters. There's 20 chapters in the Adi-lila, and they are all of the highest ecstatic states are being opened out there in that Adi-lila. So it's for us to dive in there and see by Mahaprabhu's our Bhajan Shiksha Guru. And we should understand that in our various preaching engagements that we all have at different times, we're not just saying words, but we should be speaking the truths of our realization. Whatever you have realized in your bhajan, in your chanting, in your following carefully of the precepts, of the instructions, that you should share. Not just words on a page. That becomes like blank bullets, you know? Someone can speak many verses and so on and so forth, but they don't actually have any heart in what they're saying. Then how will you have faith in that direction that that person is indicating? But if you see that person is in ecstasy, tasting so much sweetness and speciality, then you can put your faith in that, isn't it? So we should all start exhibiting ecstatic symptoms. I didn't hear you?
Otherwise it's very dry.
Yes.
It does nothing.
It becomes gyan. It's called gyan, a gyani. Or less than that, someone who's a liberationist or just wants to become freed from the sufferings and is posing so many motivational ways to live, etc., but they're not actually walking that road themselves. And only to those does he distribute this love of God to people in general. Yes, this mellow of conjugal love. Purport, distinguishing between pure devotees and internal or confidential devotees. So pure devotees and internal or confidential devotees. Srila Rupa Goswami in his book Upadeshamrita traces the following gradual process of development. Listen carefully. Out of many thousands of karmis, a karmi is someone who performs directly karma. They're working for a fruitive result. Therefore they are karmis because they're working for a karmic result. I go to work because I want money, because I want to enjoy my senses. I interact with the world because I want some pleasure from it. This is someone on the karmic level. He's a karmi. Out of many thousands of karmis, one is better who is situated in perfect Vedic knowledge. Yes, a jnani is better than a karmi. Out of many such learned scholars and philosophers, one who is actually liberated from material bondage is better. Yes. And out of many such persons who are actually liberated, one who is a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is considered to be the best. One who has risen that mood of devotion and attraction to Krishna as his summum bonum of life. There is nothing else in life except that direction. Among the many such transcendental lovers of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the gopis are the best because they have demonstrated the highest aspect of love in existence. And among the gopis, Sri Radhika is the best. Srimati Radhika is very dear to Lord Krishna, and similarly her pawns, namely Shyamakund and Radhakund, are also very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I often think, how can someone think that Prabhupada would be in Sakyaras when he's writing purports like this? I mean, it would be very hard to stretch it that way. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments in his Anubhasya that among the 5 tattvas, 2 are energies, Shakti tattva. This is Jiva Shakti and Shakti itself directly. And 3 others are energetic. Energetic, that means they are, the energy is coming from them. That's the energetic. The energy is Shakti. The energetic is the source of the energy. Shaktiman tattva, that's Vishnu tattva. Unalloyed and internal devotees are both engaged in the favorable culture of Krishna consciousness. Unalloyed and internal devotees, both. Untinged by philosophical speculation or fruitive activities. They are all understood to be pure devotees, and those among them who simply engage in conjugal love are called Madhurya Bhaktas. That means they are meditating on the conjugal pastimes and to develop their own siddhadeya in relationship to those pastimes, into their own, developing their own spiritually conceived of body. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about that. To take part ultimately in those pastimes, to wake up my internal swarup, to be engaged in those pastimes. Or internal devotees, Madhurya Bhaktas or internal devotees. The loving service in parental love, fraternity and servitude are included in conjugal love of Godhead. Yes, we have Subal, Sakha, we have all the Sakhas, they are all in Madhurya. There is Sakya Ras, and there are those Sakhas, the Priyanam Sakhas, for example, who will manifest not the same symptoms, but they will be included in the most intimate pastimes. There's not many of them, those Sakhas, Subal Sakha, Madhu Mangal, like this. All the Sakhas understand something, what Krishna is engaging in, but only a few are party to that. In conclusion, therefore, what I'm meaning to say is that, like those in Sakya Ras, like there is Sakya Ras in Ayodhya, there is Sakya Ras in Dwarka, but that Sakya Ras is completely different to the Sakya Ras in Vrindavan or in Madhurya Ras. Madhurya Ras is a whole prakosht, a whole chamber that is different from Dwarka or Mathura or Ayodhya. Even those rasas, dasya and sakya are engaged there. But when those same rasas, dasya ras for example, those servants of Krishna, Patrak, Raktak, etc. in Vrindavan, they're completely melting in their attraction and affection for Krishna, totally in Madhurya. But it's still dasya, because they've taken the role of complete servant. And those of friendship, they're also in Madhurya, but they've taken the role of, it's still totally loving exchanges, wrestling with Krishna, only living focused for Krishna's pleasure. This is Madhurya. So this Madhurya is different to the Madhurya. There is that conjugal in Dwarka is quite different of the queens. Their rati is called Samanjasa Rati. It doesn't control Krishna. Whereas in Vrindavan, that's Samartha Rati of the gopis that completely controls Krishna. These are topics we have to go into. Therefore, every confidential devotee is a pure devotee. Oh, in conclusion, therefore, every confidential means that devotee that is meditating on the internal, these pure devotees. Confidential is a pure devotee of the Lord, who are all meditating on these internal pastimes. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enjoys his pastimes with his immediate expansion, Nityananda Prabhu, his pure devotees and his three Purush incarnations, namely Karnadakshai Vishnu, Garbhadakshai Vishnu, Shiradakshai Vishnu, always accompany the Supreme Lord to propound the Sankirtan movement. So in our Sankirtan, these Purusha avatars, manifesting by the energy of Mahavishnu, through the energy of Advaita Acharya, are always present in this Sankirtan mission of Mahaprabhu. We have to understand the whole package here. We're being given a window into the whole package in this chapter. Text 20 and 21. Se panchatattva mili prithivi ashiya purva prema bandera mudha ugda diya panche mila lute prema kori ashvadan yatta piya trishna bodhe anukshan. Translation. The characteristics of Krishna are understood to be a storehouse of transcendental love. Although that storehouse of love certainly came with Krishna when he was present, it was sealed. But when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came with his associates of the Panchatattva, they broke the seal and plundered the storehouse to taste transcendental love of Krishna. The more they tasted it, the more their thirst grew for it. Previously, this wasn't the case. Previously, Krishna, he was experiencing that bliss himself confidentially in Vrindavan with his confidential associates of the gopis, but it wasn't being broadcast at all. Uddhav was practically the only one who had privy to that. And Akrura saw the demonstration of it, but he didn't understand that. He's in Dasyaras, different mood altogether. So no one could understand it. This Namo Mahavadanaya, this most munificent incarnation, Mahaprabhu, he's the one who's plundering and giving us this. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is called Mahavadanyaya Avatar, because although he is Sri Krishna himself, he is even more favorably disposed to the poor fallen souls than Lord Sri Krishna. Lord Sri Krishna didn't give this mood of his own prem, but it's not Krishna prem, it's Gopi prem that Mahaprabhu is benedicting us with. When Lord Sri Krishna himself was personally present, he demanded that everyone surrender unto him and promised that he would give one all protection. Sarvadharma Parityaja. I said before, in Krishna Lila you have to come with your container and Krishna will fill it up. But when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to this earth with his associates, he simply distributed transcendental love of God without discrimination. Sri Rupa Goswami therefore could understand that Lord Chaitanya was none other than Sri Krishna himself, for no one but the Supreme Personality of Godhead can distribute confidential love of the Supreme. Advaita Acharya can't distribute this love of Godhead the way Mahaprabhu. Nityananda cannot, because they're not that Supreme Person themselves. Nityananda Prabhu can, but he doesn't. That's not his seva. He can in the form of Ananga Manjari, but that's not his seva. His seva is to bring the devotees to Shuddha Bhakti. This is also Advaita Acharya's seva. But Mahaprabhu is the one who's going to ignite the vision of Braja Prem. Text 22. Puna Puna Priyaye Hai Mahamata Nache Kande Hashe Gaya Yache Mada Mata. Translation. The Panchatattva themselves danced again and again, and thus made it easier to drink nectarian love of Godhead. They danced, cried, laughed, and chanted like madmen, and in this way they distributed love of God. This is what we were just saying, by their own example of their intoxicated prem. This is what was resonating in the populace. They were seeing him in Puri, for example, these floods of tears coming from his eyes. What would you feel if you saw someone just weeping and weeping like this? Your heart would be moved in some way or other, directly by realization, not by words, but by realization, by seeing him. So this distribution of the realization comes from their dancing, this ecstatic dancing, particularly in Ratha Yatra. In the Ratha Yatra festival, the devotees were divided into 7 different groups, and Mahaprabhu was going from group to group to group. No one could see, except at one point King Prataparudra was allowed vision to actually see. But all these ecstatic, powerful parikas, and they're all eternal parikas of Mahaprabhu, they were giving to the world this euphoric mood of love of God. Mahaprabhu is God himself. He's reciprocating with them and giving straight back to them. He's not, from there, it's manifesting according to the adhikas in the rest of the world. But it's coming directly from Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu is that supreme distributor. People generally cannot understand the actual meaning of chanting and dancing. Purport. Describing the Goswamis, Sri Srinivasacharya stated, Kirtana Gana Naratan Paro. Not only did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates demonstrate this chanting and dancing, but the 6 Goswamis also followed in the next generation. If you can dance and chant, it means your heart basically is liberated. If you can't dance, when the kirtan is going on strongly, it means there's some big obstruction there holding you, making you reserved about your natural, spontaneous inclination. And that's okay, we can examine that and purify that. That's part of the process. But if we can dance vigorously and even weep, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj constantly said one has to weep to come to this path. One has to reach that stage of weeping for Krishna. It's like a serious, serious is the wrong word, it's the deepest aspect of our being responding to service to Krishna. It's this response to this devotion to Krishna that is going to tweak, it's going to touch the heart deeply. The present Krishna consciousness movement follows the same principle, and therefore simply by chanting and dancing we have received good responses all over the world. It is to be understood, however, that this chanting and dancing do not belong to this material world. Very interesting. There was a story actually about a businessman back in the time, in the 70s, and every time he got off a plane he would see the devotees chanting. And he was convinced that all over the planet the devotees were having this Harinam Sankirtan. And he was completely mesmerized by it, and then he became a devotee because he thought it was so powerful. Because the general people, just like the general people, will respond to someone who is chanting beautifully, especially to a chanting party. You know, the pure parts of ourselves will respond to that. But if there's too much impurity, then the heart is not at liberty to respond. It gets constrained, it gets obstructed. But if the pure self is somewhat cleaned, it can respond immediately. There are actually transcendental activities. This dancing and chanting is actually transcendental activities. For the more one engages in chanting and dancing, the more he can taste the nectar of transcendental love of God. What is the meaning of this transcendental activities? It's like reading. The more you read and become satisfied with the subject matter, the more you want to read. The more you chant and become satisfied with the chanting, the more you want to chant. This is called transcendental. The more you read the Bhagavatam, the more you immerse yourself in it, the more you want to stay in it. This is the nature of transcendence. It doesn't let us go because transcendence is eternal. We're touching the eternal part of our being when we're engaging in Srimad Bhagavatam, Harikatha, for example, when we're listening to devotees, etc. It's an eternal activity. So the eternal soul is very satisfied and pleased. Text 23. Patra patra vichara nahi nahi stanushtana ye yanha paye tanha kare prema dana. In distributing love of God, Godhead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates did not, you see, it's Mahaprabhu and his associates. It's not just Mahaprabhu. It's the complete Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu and his associates, it's the whole package combined that's going to give the full effect. If it was just Mahaprabhu on his own, like when he went in South India, there was a certain result, but Mahaprabhu just encouraged the practitioners, yes, to serve God, but he couldn't really give the esoterics of love of God because in South India, so many other avatars had walked through. So they had so many places where they were honoring Lord Narayan, just like Venkatapata at Sri Rangam. He stayed there for 4 months, and it was only right at the very end that he was able to change his heart. But previously, the residents of South India, even today, they're very mode of goodness, very pure, and so many places where miracles have been performed by Lord Narayan himself. So their focus is on Lord Narayan. So Mahaprabhu couldn't disturb that very much. So he just enlivened them with his kirtan. But if he'd been with all his Panchatattva like he was in Bengal, and when he was in Puri, predominantly at Ratha Yatra, this is when the real power was exhibited, when the whole Panchatattva was together. In distributing love of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya and his associates did not consider who was a fit candidate and who was not, nor where such distribution should or should not take place. They made no conditions. Wherever they got the opportunity, the members of the Panchatattva distributed love of God. We should also be like that. There should be no mood of discrimination. I can remember when I first began doing these Japa retreat programs many years ago, I decided to go along with the same mood. I wasn't going to discriminate with who would come and who wouldn't come. We're going away for a lonely place for 8 or 9 days. Some might be concerned, oh, this man's a bit crazy, this man's not so good, and start to discriminate. I decided categorically at the very beginning not to do that from the very beginning. And ironically, when I had the first Japa retreat in England, the first 3 people who put down a deposit for that retreat, because we had to hire the hall, etc., where we were going, they were all 3 dope smokers. And I knew it. I knew they were all dope smokers. But still, I wanted to hold by that mood to accept anybody. And they all paid their money. And then none of them came. But they all left their donation there. So in that way, I felt that was like a reciprocal confirmation, you know, because it was helpful in that first retreat to collect sufficient funds to hire the hall, etc. So in that way, they didn't actually come. But later on, others came, but they were purified by the association of the other devotees. So we should never discriminate. There are some rascals who dare to speak against the mission of Lord Chaitanya by criticizing the Krishna consciousness movement for accepting Europeans and Americans as Brahmanas and offering them sannyas. But here is an authoritative statement that is distributing love of Godhead. One should not consider whether recipients are Europeans, Americans, Hindus, Muslims, etc. Mahaprabhu, he would speak to the Harijans, those lowest of people in India, the street sweepers, etc. He would include in his net all of those personalities. India is a very strict caste-orientated society, because Varnashram was introduced originally by the Lord in Treta Yuga for the development of one's Krishna consciousness towards the supreme objective. So it was designed to put different qualified persons in their particular field of activities. The Shudras to be doing the building and so on. Actually, the Shudras were not even allowed to hear the Vedic scriptures. It was all in Sanskrit. You had to be educated to actually read Sanskrit. So it was just a closed group of the Brahmanas originally. So therefore the lower castes were prohibited from hearing these higher truths. But when Mahaprabhu came, he completely smashed this. There's a beautiful chapter, I think it's chapter 10 in Jaipadhamma, where it talks about the history of Mahaprabhu's movement. They're saying, is this a new movement? Because previously there were no lesser qualified people allowed access to the scriptures. But now here we're seeing everyone is coming. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur specifically, he took those Sanskrit texts and he put them into the Bengali vernacular. He put them into the Bengali language so that all would be accessible. So he did this deliberately. And this Sankirtan movement is completely allowing anyone to come in there. So we have to consider this. And Prabhupada is making the statement about many smarter Brahmins will object to Westerners taking this sannyas, etc. Even within the Gaudiya Math itself, those conditioned souls who join the Gaudiya Math, they will also have reservations about the Western devotees. And it's good. The Western devotees should always be humble. They've got nothing to be proud of. They don't have anything to be proud of. And they should humbly use this as an opportunity to make progress in their devotion, not to make any complaint or think, oh, Haridas Thakur didn't complain that he wasn't allowed in the Jagannath temple. He's the Namacharya completely. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, they didn't go in the Jagannath temple also. They'd worked with the Muslims. They consider themselves completely fallen. So to be in a Western body It's actually described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He gives one line in the Bhagavad Gita. He's saying that if you take birth in the West and you come to this path, you were probably a fallen Brahmin in India in your previous birth. So you've come to learn humility in the Western body. So we should take that gift of opportunity to become humble in the Western body, and not to think, oh yes, I am a Brahmin, or I am this, or I am anything that is superior to someone else. How is that going to engender spiritual affection? All the devotees are dear to the Lord, and if we choose and imagine ourselves to be superior, of course there are Kanishtas and there are Madhyam and there are Uttam Bhaktas who have to be respected according to their adhikar. But this idea of material designation was abhorrent to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He would never entertain this at all. So it's a great tragedy that many times in the Gaudiya Math, if they're not so educated, some of the people there, then they will consider this bodily designation. I know, I'm Western, I get it all the time. And it's very good for us. It's very good to always take that, because from that humble position you can't go any lower. But if you think you're on a very high platform, you can really come crashing right down at some point. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu desired that his name be spread in each and every town and village on the surface of the globe. How is that happening? It's happening through the internet. This is how it's happening. Mahaprabhu knew the internet was going to be there. Through the internet itself, it's streaming across the... I'm speaking now here from Radhakund, but it's going in so many, New Zealand, Australia, America, Europe, so many different places it's going to. So this is Mahaprabhu's arrangement, and we should utilize it for that purpose. Therefore, when the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is spread all over the world, should those who embrace it not be accepted as Vaishnavas, Brahmanas, and Sannyasis? This is in more of a mood of parental affection by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, wanting to protect the mood of his young disciples and give them encouragement. But they should always feel themselves humbled in the light of the local devotees, I would say. I always do. It's just how we can learn, how we can go forward. They have a sanskar, they have an adhikar, they have some head start from their birth on this path. These foolish arguments are sometimes raised by envious rascals, but Krishna-conscious devotees do not care for them. We strictly follow the principles set down by the Panchatattva. Text 24. Lutiya kaiya tiya bandara ujjade aschaya bandara prema shata guna bade. Translation. Although the members of the Panchatattva plundered the storehouse of love of Godhead and ate and distributed its contents, they tasted it themselves. This is what we're emphasizing. There was no scarcity, for this wonderful storehouse is so complete that as the love is distributed, the supply increases hundreds of times. Purport. A pseudo-incarnation of Krishna once told his disciple that he had emptied himself by giving him all knowledge and was thus spiritually bankrupt. Such bluffers speak in this way to cheat the public, but actual spiritual consciousness is so perfect that the more it is distributed, the more it increases. This is just what we said about transcendence. The more you indulge in it, the more it increases. Bankruptcy is a term that applies in the material world, but the storehouse of love of Godhead in the spiritual world can never be depleted. Krishna is providing for millions and trillions of living entities by supplying all their necessities. And even if all the innumerable living entities wanted to become Krishna conscious, there would be no scarcity of love of God, nor would there be insufficiency in providing for their maintenance. Everything is unlimited in the spiritual realm. We have no experience of this, so we tend to put limitations by our material calculations on it. Our Krishna consciousness movement was started single-handedly, and no one provided for our livelihood. But at present we are spending hundreds and thousands of dollars all over the world, and the movement is increasing more and more. This is absolute proof of it. Thus, there is no question of scarcity. Although jealous persons may be envious, if we stick to our principles and follow in the footsteps of the Panchatattva, this movement will go on unchecked by imitation, swamis, sannyasis, religionists, philosophers, or scientists, for it is transcendental to all material considerations. Prabhupada is on fire. He's on fire. His purports are like completely, burning. Therefore, those who propagate the Krishna consciousness movement should not be afraid of such rascals and fools. Okay, we'll stop here. So this is a very ecstatic part where the description of the love of Godhead is swelling in all directions. So we'll continue tomorrow. Shri Panchatattva ki jai, Sachinandan Gaura Hari ki jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Gaura. Hey, Hari Bol. Vansha Kalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavibhacha, Patitanam Pavnebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha.